Before I talk about the game, I should mention that the developers and the community disliked me to the point that I got banned from HELLMET and the game's Discord server without a warning or a reason beforehand. I didn't know exactly why I got banned for a full month since my ban only read error code 267. I found out that the HELLMET community and the developers behind the game, Migato Creations, hate me for the Decaying Winter video I made earlier this year on my old channel. To those interested, I made a follow-up video about it with a link in the description. However, they apparently ban a lot of YouTubers as a form of gatekeeping, and apparently I'm enough to warrant that ban. It's really disappointing to hear about that, especially after I discovered a Twitter thread made by AspenU covering the community of HELLMET, or Dummies vs Noobs at the time, and Migato Creations' response to that thread. I won't comment on the matter. It should be up to people to read both documents and decide for themselves. Because of that, all the footage I recorded was made on an alternate account. It's also how I found out I now have dedicated cyberstalkers, since one of the HELLMET community members has spent most of their time talking about me, including sharing mutual servers and documenting what I do in those servers. Even though this has soured my opinion of the game and the community and is just disappointing overall, I've already finished the rest of the review before I found out about the ban reason, so I'll just proceed with what I've written down. Now, I've already stated this in my Frontline Corellia video back on my old channel, but I'm quite into tactical shooters. Maybe ones that are focused on big server-wide multiplayer tactical war games, but tactical nonetheless. Tactical shooters are a dime a dozen in the Roblox sphere. A few of them are high quality, while the rest are either serviceable or complete utter garbage.
Stay right there!
The game I'm covering in this video, however, falls into the category of high quality, with it being HELLMET, made by the same people behind Dummies vs Noobs, which is a wave-based team co-op game where you play as dummies against endless hordes of well-armed noobs.
Oh, I just got donked by a cloaker.
HELLMET is a tactical first-person shooter developed by Migato Creations, led by Sensei Developer, that takes the perspective of three operators controlled by separate players via HELLMET cameras, like the ones you see in police bodycam footage. The developer, Sensei, considers HELLMET a game that takes on a slower, more methodical approach to the door-breaching simulator genre. Since it is currently in an open alpha state in its ongoing development, a lot of things I'm going to be talking about might be outdated in the near future and is subject to change. Generally, I think the game is very fun and high quality, packaged with a versus mode that was unexpectedly very good. However, most of my criticisms against HELLMET draw from the general balancing issues and a lack of content the game currently has. Anyways, let's get into the video. HELLMET is a tactical bodycam shooter, so getting used to the gameplay might be a little jarring at first. HELLMET starts out on the main menu, obviously. From there, you can either create or join a session on a mission, though the game recommends you do the tutorial mission called Foundation, which teaches the player most of the game's basics. There is also a skill menu that I can't exactly remember if the game ever tells you about it, but keep that skill menu in mind. It's important to the way you play the game. You'll need experience to get upgrade points called talents, which is pretty standard among most level-based games, so to earn those points, you have to level up like usual. To gain experience, you obviously need to play the game. How else can you improve your gameplay? Well, when you join to create a session, you'll play as 3 of the characters in a small 3-player team: Aradis, Casca, and Kalar. Aradis will always be the player who created the session, so Casca and Kalar are randomly selected. Also, I'm going to get this out of the way instead of leaving it to the review, but I find the recreation of the Windows 10 OS system to be incredibly creative. Even in the main menu and at the start of every mission is displayed as a Windows Media Player video before phasing out, which is just insane levels of attention to detail. But anyways, moving on to get the basics down. Firstly, to change your loadout, open the file during the mission preparation screen. There, you have a budget and a selection of guns and gadgets to use. The budget is important, it determines how much you can bring to a mission. Each gun has a different budget amount and a few of them are locked behind a specific talent in the skill tree, so look out for that. Gadgets are also there for you to help make your life easier while playing the missions and come with their own budget amount, but be careful with what you choose. Some gadgets might not synergize with your skill tree. The default jump button, space, has been rekeyed to be the interaction button for most prompts in the game. You can't jump in the game, but that doesn't really matter as the missions don't require you to jump. You can open your inventory full of gadgets by holding tab and hovering your mouse over the options. The F key is used to interact with specific items like zip ties, armor plates, and a few other gadgets. There are a ton of gadgets in the game. Some are great, while others are absolutely fucking useless.
This motherfucker got them big keys!
So I highly recommend experimenting with some of them. While playing the game, you can lean with Q and E, which also switches the camera angle, which is the standard leaning button for pretty much every tactical shooter in existence. Every mission, although having the same layout, depending on which level you're doing, have randomized enemy spawns and, in the case of the Covenant, random rooms. Your health, ammo, and gadgets can be filled with stationaries that contains bandages, ammo boxes, or 3D printers. I'm not really sure how a 3D printer can make a whole ass flashbang and medical pens, but sure. Some doors are locked, requiring them to be lockpicked. Non-locked doors can be opened normally by slightly edging the door open, which is mostly useful for throwing flashbangs in. Otherwise, you can just kick it down.
FBI, open up!
Just be careful the door isn't trapped with a grenade.
I'm about to blow.
Pressing F causes your character to shout at enemies. It either makes them stand down or agitates them into attacking, but for the most part, it's intended to force a surrender. Speaking of surrendering, it's very important to distinguish between a hostile and a non-hostile. You have to take down those who want to kill you, but also avoid attacking those who are either surrendering, already surrendered, or are currently unaware of your location.
He was part of the press.
Yes, that rule also applies. Non-hostiles may also try to run away from the scene, which makes the game consider them hostile, so you have to kill them or else they'll make your life harder. To make sure they don't do anything silly, you can tie them down with zip ties or just shoot them with a taser. Shooting non-hostiles will make the game penalize you. This is reflected in the mission finishing screen, where you usually lose some EXP for killing someone who's surrendered or hasn't threatened you. Kill too many of them and you lose the game. There are 3 enemy alertness levels: unaware, aware, and sighted. Unaware means that the enemies and civilians of the map are totally ignorant of your existence. Aware means you've been spotted and the enemy knows you're in the location, but they don't know where exactly you are. Finally, there's sighted, where the enemies knows where you are and knows that you're in the location, so basically you're fucked.
Bruh. Bruh.
Finally, once you've completed a mission, you're shown a small window of your performance. Depending on the difficulty, the number of players on your team currently, solo or not, how many players you've tied down with zip ties, and how many non-hostiles you've accidentally or not accidentally killed. You have a base multiplier, addition, or subtraction that determines how much total XP you earn. So what about enemy types? There really are only 2, but to list them, firstly there's the regular grunts, which are soldiers with armor and gear. Sometimes they drop radios, which forces you to disable them or else it'll increase the alertness level. Non-hostiles are usually people who are just sort of there. They're unarmed and you're not supposed to kill them, rather you have to get them to surrender. Other times, soldiers or civilians who are not hostile toward you might either try to run away from the scene or pick up a weapon to attack you after surrendering. In a very rare but very dangerous scenario, however, civilians might pull a knife to kill you, forcing you to kill them or else they'll pin you down. If you have enough health, you'll be able to push them off your back. If you don't have enough health, good fucking luck because you're dead. Currently, there are 3 missions available, presented as a timeline complete with datings. Firstly, there's Foundation, the tutorial mission teaching players the basics. Secondly, there's the Covenant, the first real mission taking place in a hospital full of hostiles. And finally, the second mission, Dawnbreaker, taking place in an abandoned drug manufacturing plant. It's actually called a spice manufacturing, but because of Roblox, obviously they had to switch the name. It's unique in that it's currently the only mission in the entire game to have a boss fight, featuring the scariest enemy of all, the Chinese.
What's that thing?
I'm certain that a lot more missions will come out as time goes on, so as far as everyone knows, this is how far Helmet will go in terms of missions for now. There are also 5 difficulties. I actually have no idea what the majority of the differences in difficulties are, and I only really know 2, which is just from Extremity. So here's the Helmet wiki pretty much telling you what the significant difficulty changes are.
I originally had a section here explaining the emissary or the AI director system inspired by Left 4 Dead 2 that is present in Helmet, but it took too long to actually, explain it, so just here's the wiki page for it.
Alright, with the campaign mode out of the way, let's talk about the versus mode. This might come to the surprise of a few people, and again, I'm going to say this outside of the review, I actually liked it. I was originally skeptical of Helmet's versus mode since PvP content on Roblox in games that are usually meant for co-op or single player experiences like Robe's Right to Fight are extremely hit or miss in my opinion. Sometimes it might strike the right nerve and be a very fun experience, or it's a boiling pot of hot dog shit. Anyways, Helmet's versus mode is basically just a regular gameplay sans a couple of features that were done away with or simplified for convenience sake. Your loadout screen has been relegated to a start of round buying screen similar to Counter-Strike and Valorant. Some equipment like the chest plate is immediately equipped upon purchase. More equipment is available to you like grenades. Some of them are exclusive to the versus mode. You have to buy your own primary weapon, but should you survive a round, the equipment is transferred to the next round until you die or the map changes. As far as I know, this is basically everything covered in the game. It's a lot to go through, but all in all, I actually have to admit that I came into the game with pretty low expectations. Bodycam games are in a frequent sight on Roblox platform, and some of them are mediocre or hot fucking garbage. To my surprise, however, Helmet was actually a very fun game to play. Before I review the game though, I should mention that the game does have lore, but originally I wrote an entire section on the script about the lore, but it can just be summarized by this video by this guy, so I forgot his name because I'm not reading the script part of it, so I'll just link it in the description and put a screen up in the video, which you'll be seeing by now. I'll get this right off the bat. This game is just incredible. It's worth mentioning though that my experience with Helmet is mostly me going through each session with the mindset of methodical and efficient room clearing, except in Dawnbreaker during the specific maze section of that mission. So this part is entirely based on me preferring to slowly approach each and every room to clear them than to bum rush each mission while being high off my kite and destroying everything and everyone in my path like I'm running a new Vegas unarmed build. Okay, that's enough. The quality of Helmet is just staggering. It's hard to me to exactly articulate what the game does to pull me into it, but the role of being one of those bodycam cop or soldier videos just feels so immersive. There are many obvious parallels between Helmet, Ready or Not, and SWAT 4. Many of the features in Helmet seem to take direct inspiration from those two games, like the camera gun letting you check what's behind doors and lockpicking, down to even convincing enemies to surrender or them fake surrendering by trying to get back up or a civilian rushing you with a knife. There's even some nice attention to detail, like how the audio of the game sounds crunchy since it's coming out from a camera which, all things considered, is probably one of those generic military-grade tools that was made by some cheap third-party manufacturing. Hell, even most of the UI is designed to look and operate like the Windows OS system. Almost everything in the game ties together perfectly. Everything from the leaning mechanics, the synergy between cooperative teammates, the way the game is balanced by the AI director system, the skills, and how players engage in a mission makes for an incredible experience. For a game that's currently still in early development, it's already offering a pretty wide array of things to experiment with, even though for the main campaign there are only 2 missions available, not counting the tutorial. My favorite mission has to be the Covenant. Even though it's extremely easy, even on the hardest difficulty, I find it incredibly engaging and a fresh experience each time I play it. If anything, Helmet is ahead of the curve when it comes to Roblox bodycam shooter games, doing a lot more with what it has compared to other contemporaries like Paracam. Anyways, let's get to the part where I complain about everything. First off, some of the perks make certain gadgets absolutely fucking useless. The perk that lets you instantly kick down doors or have quieter footsteps basically removes the need of Sledgehammer and the Sneakers gadget, both of which helps the players navigate rooms or be quiet. Then there's also the perks that are absolutely busted for no reason, like the one that lets you scan enemies or non-hostiles around you. Basically a cracked form of X-ray. Of course, you can say it's balanced because you can only use it once every 60 seconds, but for me, it makes the camera gun nearly pointless to bring along. It marks enemies just like the perk, but only in difficulties that earn extremity. And finally, the perk that locks you out of certain weapons, such as hard kill shotgun and the taser, feels unnecessary. I really can't come up with a rational explanation as to why this perk exists, but in some skill builds, you're forced to spend 5 talent points just so you can lug around a shotgun that can switch between 3 ammo types or a tiny little taser.
Lightning bolt, lightning bolt!
Secondly, I feel like Dawnbreaker is currently the most unfun mission in the game. There's a certain section where you have to navigate through an underground complex to get to the boss room. While it is manageable on its own, it's straight up frustrating and a bitch to get through on extremity. Given that the AI director system exists, going with the perk that lets you predict the AI director's next move, at least in my experience, basically tells you that for the next few minutes, you will encounter nothing but pure shitstorm and a massive amount of enemy spam in almost every single goddamn room and door you kick down. It's not helped by the fact that this section is one you have to rush through because of the carcinogen spiking mechanic, a timer that, when it reaches 0, fills the entire maze with poisonous gas like clouds and you're forced to hide in the respiration room. Normally that's fine, but unfortunately the carcinogen timer is dependent on the difficulty. If I remember, the timer is usually around 2 minutes or less on a default equity difficulty, but on extremity? Have fun, cause it's only on for 1 minute and 15 fucking seconds. Have fun trying to find a respirator room when it's none nearby, dipshit. I really fucking hate how the enemies and non-hostiles act in the game. There's nothing wrong with how they interact with the players, but my main problem with them is the fact that they have 0 collision with each other. Oh, is that a non-hostile standing inside of a hostile who's literally shooting at you? Had fun being punished for accidentally shooting a non-hostile while an enemy was literally phasing through his ass. Another thing that I have to point out about the missions is how damn dark they are. It is stupid hard to navigate on some parts of each mission because of just how dark it can get. But you know what makes it worse? Extremity difficulty. It makes the maps even darker for some goddamn reason. I genuinely don't know why this was even the gameplay design choice made in the first place, but it feels like the developers solely made it even darker to navigate on maps not out of bouncing concerns, but only so it impedes the players so they can enjoy making people struggle on how to go down a simple set of stairs. Now, about the weapons, I think most of them are pretty decent with their gimmick, though some of them don't really make much sense. Particularly the one that looks like an M14, which is the NAETD rifle, is the only rifle in the entire game that can switch from semi-auto to full auto. Historically, that did not work out. This could just be negated by having a good trigger finger, just don't hold on the left mouse button when firing a full auto gun, but I feel like the NAETD being the only gun that can do that is a bit weird. As for the one gun I absolutely despise, the Byanye 99 submachine gun, or the Uzi, is basically the worst gun in the entire game. It's just awful. I wrote a very extensive insult about the gun in my script, but I'm like, reading it now, it doesn't really make sense if I express it, and I can only really say it through script writing, so I'll just say it's bad. The only gimmick it has is to extend or unextend the stock that changes recoil and aiming walking speed depending on its state, which makes it entirely pointless by the fact that it is literally incapable of killing enemies quickly. But what is arguably the best gun in the entire game, save for the Velata Y88S assault rifle, which is just a glorified AK platform because of its cheap budget amount, is the Bishin OV4, aka the VSS Ventoris. By God, is it a good gun. Sure, it is a pretty unimpressive and unremarkable sniper rifle, but there's one thing that makes it above every other gun. Night vision. Normally, you'd expect a night vision gadget available to the team because you play as the equivalent to the special forces, or at least I think so. But nope. It's locked to the Bishin OV4 rifle, which not only negates a mission's natural darkness, but also completely ignores the extra bit of darkness that extremity difficulty gives. Fucking crazy just how a single weapon in the entire game can just make visibility, which is a core mechanic to Helmet's game design, completely pointless. Of course, you can argue that its budget amount makes it a tough choice between gadget reliance or decked out gunmen, but come on. The default secondary pistol is good enough and literally costs nothing, and Flashbang, which to me is basically the holy fucking grail of Helmet's gadgets, is cheap as dirt. Anyways, the last bit of critique I have of the game is the versus mode. Yes, it's really fun and really good, like I said. However, the one thing I have to complain about is how easy it is to cheese versus mode just by leaning around a corner without actually peeking outwards. It gives you invaluable information about the enemy's position without exposing yourself, meaning you can just cheese a firefight by catching the other player off guard. This doesn't always work since the opposing enemy might have the same idea, but generally that's what led to my many wins on versus mode. Also, teammates kind of suck ass, but come on, that's the basis of every game. That's not to say all my teammates are bad. I did get some who were really good at the game and practically carried me in every game session when I first started out, though I don't particularly like the ones who are just messing around. But at this point, it's such a common occurrence that from this point on, I'll just say, oh, my teammates are kind of horrible, and then move on. With all that said and done, even though I had a lot to complain about regarding Helmet, I still firmly believe that the game is great, but even great things have untapped potential. If and when the Helmet developers ever get around to making future changes and push into a full release of the game, I really hope they take the opportunity to flesh out the game's current mechanics further, especially ones that are currently lacking, like the gun selection and the skill power creep. Helmet is a bodycam-styled FPS serving as a prequel that takes place 10 years before the events of another game, Dummies vs. Noobs. Whether in 3-player teams or solo, players take on several currently available missions in different locations as 3 core characters, Auratus, Cascar, and Kalar. They can take on various skills and create an appropriate loadout that synergizes with their playthroughs. While that's the game's main feature, players can also choose to play on the PvP versus mode instead. Helmet as a game has great visual presentation, attention to detail, and excellent repeatable gameplay, even with the short selection of campaign missions currently available. While it doesn't blend together perfectly at times, the way the game allows the players to approach a situation with whatever method they believe is the most appropriate makes up for an intriguing experience that, in some regard, differs greatly from other Roblox experiences available on the platform and to the benefit of Helmet, even ones that are similar to the game. However, I personally think Helmet suffers from a lot of severe balancing in its current state and several gameplay aspects that, while not directly affected by how the guns or skills work, need immediate fixing for a less frustrating experience, like Dawnbreaker's maze section and NPCs being able to phase through each other. Aside from my shadow ban and several aspects of the game that I thought were not properly balanced, Helmet is a great game with even more room to expand upon its already existing mechanics and features.